All right, well, welcome. If you were in here for part of the budget discussion, welcome to the November 19th, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting. If you could all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, standard announcements from the chair. Please silence your cell phones and any other devices so that we do not interrupt people who need to speak. Also, please know that audience members may be audio or video recorded by third parties during this public meeting. And the chair's statement on meeting conduct and public comment is on the back side of your agenda. I'll just read a couple of the sections that we'd like you to be aware of. West Goshen residents and taxpayers may make comment on any agenda item that requires a vote by the Board of Supervisors. West Goshen Township residents and taxpayers may speak for 2 minutes per item. At the chair's discretion or at the request of another board member, a speaker may be granted additional time. The Board of Supervisors reserve the right to not engage in a question and answer dialogue with speakers. Comments are meant to be declaratory in nature and not interrogatory. For comments on items not on the agenda, West Goshen Township residents and taxpayers may make comment during the public comment period for any item not on the agenda. West Goshen Township residents interested in providing comment during this period shall submit their statements to the Township Manager at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting so the Board and Township staff may be prepared. West Goshen Township residents and taxpayers may speak up to 2 minutes per item. At the chair's discretion or at the request of another board member, a speaker may be granted additional time. The Board of Supervisors reserves the right not to engage in a question and answer dialogue with speakers. Comments are meant to be declaratory in nature and not interrogatory. General regulations. No individual shall make offensive, insulting, threatening, insolent, slanderous, or obscene remarks or act in boisterous manner or make threats against any person or against public order and security. If an individual shall refuse to yield the floor when their allotted time has expired or refuse to adhere to the protocols of decorum and order by yelling or commenting when they are have not been recognized by the board chairperson to speak, he or she shall be asked to leave the meeting by the board chairperson and, if necessary, be removed by the sergeant at arms, who shall be as township police officer present at each meeting. Thank you. So, if you are just joining us, we had a discussion about the current plan for the budget for next year. And Mr. Walsh had shared some comments. He has a third comment that he'd like to share, and I'm going to ask that he make that comment now before we continue with the remainder of the meeting.
So the unfinished business was to make a motion to move from the general fund to capital reserve fund of the township, a replenishment to equal the amount that was drawn down because shown in the current preliminary budget, which I think is fine.
I believe that was the 1.7 million you were recommending.
Yeah, so the motion was to replenish the capital reserve fund from the general fund in the amount of $1.7 million to bring the projected future reserve for future years up to $3.65 million in the capital reserve fund for 2020. Again, the premise of this was that the general fund has been steadily increasing in size over the last few years and has a surplus in there above the normal requirements to manage the normal operating business of the township and that these excess funds should really be earmarked to replenish the capital reserve that is currently shown as being drawn down and be available for future investment in township infrastructure. Shall I repeat the motion? You good?
Did you make a motion, Sean?
So the motion is that I'm making is to move from the general fund $1.7 million to the township capital reserve fund.
I'll second that motion.
Any public comment? Dr. White, please come up.
Sean, will, talk about West Goshen Township. Sean, will the 1.7 be earmarked for something in specific or used just for general savings in the capital reserve fund?
So we do need to spend the time to develop a forward view of capital investments in stormwater, roads, and other items that the township staff may identify. We don't quite have that full plan yet, but all I'm proposed to do is tonight basically is to replenish what was already going to be spent in 2020, because we do show a drawdown in the capital reserve fund. So this motion really is simply replenishing what we already have in there. We know the township has infrastructure needs. So the intention is to show good financial management and take a surplus out of the general fund, which has been accumulating, and is not needed to manage the day-to-day operations, and earmark it for capital investments. The specific projects, to answer your question, are TBD, and the township and the board can work on what those are in the first half of the year, 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Okay, moving on. Chair's announcement that discussion of proposed historic resources ordinance has been postponed.
No, we still need to. Do you
Oh,
want
I'm
to finish?
sorry.
That's okay. We still need to finish the budget discussion.
Okay. The
Yeah.
advertisement.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want to make any changes to revenue or have any more discussion on that? Or with Sean's changes, we can advertise with Sean's changes. It'll still show 188, sorry. It'll still show $188,000 deficit, which will be funded out of reserves or fund surplus. Unless you bump your revenue numbers. And you can make changes right up until the day you adopt it.
Okay. So we have a motion to advertise.
Casey,
Yes, sir.
just for the audience,
Yep.
clarification, day of adoption is,
December 17th is our next regularly
that's the
scheduled
final
meeting.
adoption of the budget.
I'm going to make a motion to advertise it with the corrections or adjustments that Sean just did.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any additional public comment? Ms. Hort?
Thank you. I'm going to ask again for you just to hold off on advertising it. Because it's my understanding you all just received this budget material in its entirety on Thursday or Friday. And this is your first opportunity as a board, was tonight, to discuss a, whatever the total is, $23 million budget. And it took 5-10 minutes of deliberation for you to decide to advertise this budget when it clearly hasn't been deliberated or discussed. I mean, we spent more time on chicken coop ordinances and public comment ordinances. And I just feel like you're cheating the residents of the township if you vote to approve this. There's no reason why you can't have another meeting next week or the following week. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be changed. And I know I have a lot of other things, but I just don't see how you can move forward with this. It just makes no sense to me.
So just to be transparent and clear about this, Mr. Purnell and I have been serving as the two township supervisors who have gone to at least 3, if not 4, budget meetings with internal staff. We also had in October, before October 15th board meeting, an open dialogue where people were invited to come and ask us questions and learn more about the budget. Unfortunately, it wasn't very well attended. However, we do have minutes from that discussion, and we also were able to be informed about some of the decisions that were being made about the capital equipment, about salary increases. We were looking at everything from a conservative point of view, knowing that there's maybe some potential for, leveling off of our revenues annually, given some of our dependencies on the IT and other taxes that you saw, or sorry, not actually taxes, but sources of income that we may not be able to achieve year after year. So we actually have spent quite a bit of time working together, Mr. Purnell and I, with the township staff, and each of the other individual board members were provided a packet of information at that October meeting where they were able to see the exact same information that Mr. Purnell and I had. And I don't think I had a chance to talk to any of the board members directly about this. They were provided the materials and had the opportunity to ask any questions and do their own research. So I disagree with waiting any longer. I think we need to get the budget prepared because there's quite a bit of work that still needs to happen even before December 15th. So that's my point of view, and I'd like to move forward.
Okay, I just want to add a comment that I have personally spoke with staff of the township about the budget process and understood the general direction of where the budget was going. I met personally with the finance director and felt pretty well apprised of what the budget was going to look like. Yes, the individual line items were something we got last week, but I spent some time looking at these, and I'm okay with moving forward to advertise the budget.
Could you read the figures that will be advertised, please?
I was about to say, I think it's important to understand that the original asks for our budget was, what was the amount or deficit we were looking at originally? It was,
That was true back in October. We had $1 million plus dollar deficit.
can you say that number again?
It was over $1 million.
Yeah, it was way over $1 million. So we have been participating, thanks to you and Robin. Those are the people who were appointed this time to take a look at the budget. Individually, they would communicate to each and every one of us about what type of items we think we could do without. This was a process that actually took a lot longer than a few days, Marty. And we do have to get moving. So I'm for moving along and voting for advertising.
Again, would you just read the budget numbers that are going to be advertised?
Well, they are going to change due to Mr. Walsh's 3. As of tonight, before his changes, again, it's that all fund summary, which I read earlier. And again, this is without your changes, Mr. Walsh. General fund, beginning fund balance, $12,660,000. Excuse me, $12,660,534. $15,670,654 of revenue, with expenditures of $15,858,897. Ending fund balance of $12,472,291, with a deficit of $188,243. Sewer fund, beginning fund balance of $5,824,241. Revenue of $6,606,858. Expenditures of $5,930,284,000, with an ending fund balance, again in sewer fund, of $6,500,815, with a proposed surplus of $676,574. Waste and recycling fund, beginning fund balance, $2,134,711, with revenue of $2,299,900, expenditures of $2,599,934, ending fund balance, $1,834,677, with a deficit of $300,034. Capital Reserve Fund, beginning fund balance, $3,641,251. Projected revenue of $923,518. expenditures of $2,613,729, ending fund balance in capital reserve of $1,951,041, with a deficit of $1,690,210. And finally, the State Highway Liquid Fuels Fund, beginning fund balance of $51,876, plus revenue of $719,291, with expenditures of $750,000, ending fund balance in State Highway and Liquid Fuels of $21,167, for a deficit of $30,709. So those numbers will change with Mr. Walsh's 3 motions.
May I, just 30 seconds, one comment to be on record? Yeah, sure. Thank you, I appreciate it.
The approved budget contains a lot more than just this document. The approved budget includes a message from the township manager. It encompasses probably another 50 pages. So what you come back to in December to approve will be information that you don't even have in front of you this evening. It's an incomplete budget. Where's the 5-year capital plan that is required?
It's not required.
It's required by the second-class township
Final
code.
approval in December, not tonight. Not tonight.
5-year capital plan, and you're not even discussing it tonight. So
We discussed it in
Thank you.
October at our October meeting.
Okay.
You need a vote.
I need to vote, yes, that's exactly what I need to do. Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
For participating in our discussion today on the budget. I now move to my announcement regarding the Historic Resources Ordinance that has been postponed. On October 24th, the Historical Commission had a standard monthly meeting, and they invited a handful of people, or they invited everybody, who may be a resident living in a historical home. There was an effort by the commission to try to find ways to incent residents to maintain their homes, perhaps in the integrity of its historical significance, but more so to help the township benefit by knowing maybe the stories or the history of the homes that these people live in. And most people who buy homes that are of historical significance are people who really care about the home and the history and see themselves as stewards of that history going forward. When the Historic Resource Ordinance was presented to them, there were a number of issues that were raised that gave them concern about the level of involvement the township would have in basically regulating what can and cannot be done to the home. And so at the moment, based upon some of that feedback, the chair of the Historical Commission, Mr. Kevin Pistiner, and some of the people on his commission are going to take another look at it and make some adjustments to it that they think would be more amenable to the residents' needs, with the idea of ensuring that, if possible, to be able to have 2 or 3 different opportunities by the, of course, Historical Commission to be able to document information about the home. So if you're a homeowner, you live in a historical home that you're planning on moving, and you've got 5 acres of land around it, you might be selling your home, this beautiful home, but also your 5 acres to a developer. And I think we as a township would love to maintain the integrity of that home if possible. So in the new ordinance, we're looking to help, I am expecting that what they're going to do is try to focus more on keeping that home from being demolished without spending as much time focusing on having to track and monitor what they do to their home, whether it be on the exterior or the interior. So that is being postponed from our evaluation until we get a revised copy of their point of view from an ordinance standpoint. And then we'll pick this up probably in January or February of next year.
Robin, on the letter that was sent to the
homes that are potentially going to be identified as historic. It identified this Thursday as another meeting of the Historical Commission where the ordinance would be discussed. Somebody in the audience had asked me a question of whether or not that will still be on the agenda for this Thursday. Do you know if they'll be tackling that this week, or will that be at a future meeting?
I don't know the timeline for the work that Kevin and his group of, other people on the commission are working on yet. I hope that he's going to, this is the last meeting of the year, so this might be an opportunity for him to share the similar information, but also maybe inform residents who do come on what his plan is in terms of how he's planning on working with the commission to move forward.
So it probably would be beneficial for somebody who received that letter to still, if they can, attend Thursday to do so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is there anyone here in the audience who attended that or is a historical property owner?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments or would you have any questions for us?
Well, I agree with your assessment that people who own these houses have an interest in preserving the history. And it's just my objection to the ordinance as written is that just to make small changes in the house, you have to hire an architect, an engineer, and to replace a door or something, and it could be very expensive. And the penalty phase for whatever seems draconian to me. For $500 a day for a small mistake or something, it doesn't sound like the township is interested so much in preserving history as we are all. And I'm not the only one that held that opinion, because at that meeting there were 50 or so homeowners. I was there, and when I spoke, I asked for a democratic reaction to the thing, to the ordinance itself, and I asked for a show of hands, and it was 100% against the ordinance as written because of the onerous parts, not so much as the punishment phase, but like for making small changes in your house. We live in these houses. They're not museums or mausoleums. We love these houses, and we just don't want to have to put out very large amounts of money to make small changes and that don't affect the history of the house. And that's the way that the ordinance is written, and I disagree with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the record, sir, can you state your name, because we have to take minutes?
My name,
Your address.
yes, my name is Leonard Andrian. This is my sister, Vaughn Louise Andrian, and we're the owners of the property at 1241 Green Hill Road, the intersection of Green Hill and Boot, right across from the new firehouse.
I saw somebody else raise their hand. Are you interested in speaking up as well? I think it was you.
No, it was me. I was also at the meeting.
Come on up if you would, and then just so we can get your name up there. And it's easier for us, everyone in the audience to hear you on the mic.
My name is Joe Bluebello. I live at 767 Old West Town. Basically, as he said, most of us that own the homes, we love the houses. It's in our best interest to preserve them, but at the same time, we want to live as it's 2020 and not have to go through hoops trying to preserve something when it's something that we live in daily. A lot of their requirements were pretty extensive. So I think that's what it caused everybody to get into a panic about it. Everybody wants to preserve it, but most of us want to live in one. So I think that's it.
Great.
But the spelling of your name. It's B-L-U-B-E-L-L-L. Great. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this matter?
Yeah, do you want me to come on?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ashley Gagne. I just had a question. So I just wanted to know, how does the borough of Westchester, for example, or other townships around us handle this sort of thing? Like in the borough, I know that a lot of people, I mean, it's an old town, right? So how
Yeah,
does
it varies. The borough of Westchester has a HARB district, so the entire downtown Westchester is a Historic Architectural Review Board certified district that has its own statute that governs what can be done, and that really focuses on what can be seen from the exterior, from the public right-of-way. They don't have, that's a separate state statute. The municipality's planning code, which is the law that authorizes zoning ordinances, that authorizes municipalities as part of their zoning ordinances to enact regulations to protect and preserve historic resources. So this particular ordinance was done with that as the authority, and they run the gamut of being, for example, Birmingham Township has an ordinance a little bit more stringent than what was proposed in terms of alterations, renovations, rehabilitations, and demolitions to historic structures. Other municipalities have ones where it's really just an inventory and a listing, and before you get a permit to do anything, you have a dialogue with the Historic Commission. So it can be what they want it to be, really. There's a lot of discretion and a lot of policy decisions to be made about how you want to go about what level of protection you want. From what I understand, the focus will really be on just making sure that they're not demolished either by neglect or without even a conversation to try to encourage a property owner who has a historic resource to maybe think about some creative ideas and incentivize them with certain adaptive reuses, or, for example, East Goshen's ordinance has incentives to maintain a historic resource by allowing them to change the area involved regulations, so allowing them to have maybe more impervious cover, less of a setback from the side and rear yards, things like that, so that again, they're trying to work together cooperatively with the property owner to, again, the goal being to preserve the historic resource. So you have all kind of discretion about what level of protection and restriction you want. So it's sort of all over the place.
Yeah, thanks. I think that it's worth noting that there's some wiggle room, or it sounds like there's a lot of wiggle room there. So, all right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 6, the reports for the month of October 2019. Chief Gleason.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the month of October, the West Goshen Police Department responded to 2,070 calls for service. We responded to 60 alarms, 5 of which were valid. We investigated 38 reportable motor vehicle accidents and responded to 66 non-reportable motor vehicle accidents. We logged 24,675 miles on our patrol vehicles. With regard to selective enforcement, among other locations, we were active on North New Street, Grove Road, Sylvan Road, Taylor's Mill Road, Sunset Hollow Road, Green Hill Road, and Parkside Avenue. And our career development continues. We had officers attending our monthly emergency response team training. Officer Myers attended a 2-day training for the Pennsylvania Juvenile Officers Association. Officer Grandizio attended his command and leadership program, which he's due to graduate from, I think, this coming Friday. The entire department completed their semi-annual CPR and first aid training, and we completed our fall firearms training as well. And officers attended a comprehensive officer resilience train-the-trainer program by Officer Holman. Our detectives, 2 detectives attended a Delaware State Police Homicide Conference training. Our negotiators for our SWAT team attended their monthly training. The command staff, along with Sergeant Liss, attended a FBI National Academy presentation on taking care of our own, which Officer Holman was actually the presenter for. And 4 officers have completed crisis intervention team training, which brings the total number of officers for the police department to 21 of the 31 trained in crisis intervention training. And Officer Grandizio also taught a course, standardized field sobriety testing, out at the Public Safety Training Center. He's a primary instructor for the county. And then the last thing I keep pushing this every month, is the Smart 911. This is a program that is free to all Chester County residents. If you go on smart911.com, you can enter your residence, you can enter your cell phone numbers, you can enter all emergency information, and will be entered into the CAD system of the 911 center. So, for instance, if you have an illness, you are
physically impaired, you can put that information on there so that if you do need us or you need the fire department or you need emergency medical treatment, we know more information going into it than just responding to an ambulance call for a particular illness. You can put a hide key in this information so we can access your residence if elderly can't get to the phone or can't get to their medications or something like that. So I keep pushing this every month because I think it's very important. I'm actually actively doing this for my in-laws. They're up in their years and are housebound as well. So it's a very worthwhile program and it saves time. So with that, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for your public service announcement. Okay, Ms. Andrea Chester will come up as our fire marshal. Give us her report.
Thank you. Good evening. For the month of October, there were a total of 37 inspections. 4 commercial use and occupancy, 7 walkthrough, 10 sprinkler, 2 framing, 2 underground fire line, 7 residential finals, 1 fire extinguisher placement, and 4 fire alarms. There were a total of 7 fire calls, 1 car fire, 5 fire alarms, and 1 gas leak. I locked up 2 Knox boxes, attended 2 meetings, and I gave 3 fire safety trainings. The Westchester Fire Department had 21 calls for the month, and Good Fellowship Ambulance had 141 calls for the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Building officials report by Mr. John Beswick.
Good evening. For the month of October, there was 121 permits, 4 single-family dwellings, 22 buildings, 21 electric, 9 fire protection, 13 HVAC, 11 plumbing, 3 roofing, 11 zoning, 10 use and occupancies, 5 E&S, 3 sewer tapping connections, 3 open space, and 6 road occupancies. The estimated cost of construction was $1,931,176.71, and the permit fees were $44,816.44. Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of October 15, 2019 and November 6, 2019.
Second that.
Any public comment on the meeting minutes from October 15th and November 6th? Yes. Yes, come on up.
Thank you. Margie Swart. At last month's meeting, Ms. Stuntebeck stressed the importance of accuracy and completeness regarding township affairs, yet the board continues to approve inaccurate and incomplete minutes. For example, at the June 18, 2019 meeting, the township manager announced that Kmart will be closing. A 17-minute presentation followed regarding preliminary plans for a 300-unit apartment complex to be built on the site if the property owner could secure necessary approvals. Mr. Meekum inquired if there would be a condominium units in addition to rentals. He went on to ask about underground parking. Mr. Canal wanted to know if the building would be fully sprinklered. Mr. Pielli commented that the comprehensive plan identified the subject parcel as a focus area for redevelopment. Mr. Walsh asked how many stories the building will be and sought clarification on the economic benefits that were quoted. Ms. Stuntebeck asked if sound walls might be installed due to the heavy traffic in the area. At no point in time did a supervisor object or resist this preliminary proposal. Fast forward to October 4th, 2019. The Daily Local News reported on the closing of Kmart. The article was supported by facts. The headline was misleading, but was swiftly corrected. At the October 15th meeting, an agitated township manager proclaimed the article to be inaccurate and patently false. I'd like to set the record straight. What's inaccurate and patently false are the June 18th, 2019 minutes written by the township manager. They are completely devoid of the aforementioned events. News reporters and township residents must turn to alternative sources because the truth cannot be found in the meeting minutes. It's a sad reality, and it's going to sting when the residents eventually learn the dark secrets of this township. I'd like to point out the many false statements and omissions in the minutes before you, but I'm out of time. Thank you.
So, Ms. Ward, everything that you just said has been videotaped and available for every single resident of this township. You took totally out of context what occurred. A plan was presented, whether we approve it or not was a different issue, which we did not.
It needs to be in the.
I'm talking, madam. Thank you, we let you talk. We ask questions when someone presents a plan, questions that you cited, because we want to give everyone an opportunity to present their plan. In the end, it's up to this board whether or not we will approve the plan, which we, to every single member, did not approve the plan. We were not interested in it. There's no mystery here. There's no conspiracy here. There's no dark and secret motives here. I don't understand why you do this. Once again, the minutes they do not have to be verbatim, or else we would have a stenographer up here, which would cost the township quite a lot of money. But what we do have is videotape for everyone to see. So, I don't get it. And no. You had your say, no, I had mine. Thank you.
Minutes are the official record of the township. You're not being,
Ms.
you have no
Camp-
standing right now.
Ms. Camp knows this.
We're moving on to the next agenda item. All right, so the item is, are we going to approve the minutes from October 15th and November 6th? Do I have a first and a second?
We did.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 8 is the approval of the Treasurer's Report dated October 31st, 2019 for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Yes. Please come up.
Thank you. Not included in the treasurer's report is the Greystone, Woodlands at Greystone escrow accounts. It appears that Mr. Lalonde approves the disbursements from that escrow account on a monthly basis. When does the board approve those payments? And why aren't they included in the treasurer's report? Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Aye. All right, moving forward on item 9, Board of Supervisors announcements. Mr. Walsh, would you like to start? Anything new?
Yes, I want to inform the other board members and residents of the township and any other surrounding municipalities that might be here that the Renewable Energy Consulting presentation to the Westchester Area Council of Governments occurred on November the 7th. It was really done by the advisory group members. The Council of Governments members decided that they would like to postpone or move back till January the formal presentation of the final report by Cadmus, and I asked that the advisory group help make very specific recommendations that would be not just generic related to the Cadmus ideas, but very specific to the local municipalities that could then consider them specific recommendations to either act on or not. So I just want to let people know that there will be a public meeting of the Council of Governments, Westchester Area Council of Governments, in January to view the final presentation presented by Cadmus and the advisory group. The date was a little tentative, so I'll be able to formally announce what that date is at the December meeting.
I just wanted to acknowledge that there are residents in the meeting today who were part of a group who came to the township when we had a township meeting, one of our workshop meetings. And these are residents who were found to be living in the PUC-1 area of our community, just part of the Westchester University Overlay Project. After having spent some time with them, coming to our workshop and then doing some follow-up, the board evaluated the issues that they were sharing with us, and we decided to speak with our planner about how to accommodate the biggest concern that they had, which was to be within the overlay and have the university possibly still build on areas around where they live. So time has taken, we've taken some time to go through that with the planner, and the residents of that area are moving forward with their own somewhat advisory type committee, which we will benefit from hopefully in the early part of 2020, to really address the PUC concern that they had, but then also to recognize the fact that there is a new president/chancellor of the university who seems to have somewhat more of an open mind with respect to how to work alongside the residents who live alongside their university. So we're going to, as a board, postpone this till January so that we have the ability, with the new board members joining, to be able to refresh this discussion and have an opportunity to also share the concerns that the residents who lived alongside the university for 20, 30 years have an opportunity to have a more candid conversation directly with university representatives. So while it's been postponed, we've had a very busy last few months, we will try to pick this up in the early part of 2020. And we have a couple of those residents here. Do you want to make any comments? No?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Miko.
Just briefly from the Parks and Rec Department, there's several trips to New York City. First is Radio City Music Hall on November 24th, and there's a second trip on December 9th, in case you missed that. You could choose from one of the 2 days to see the world-renowned Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular before spending time sightseeing and shopping, and conclude your stay in New York with a memorable Italian dinner at Carmine's. Anybody ever go to Carmine's? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There's also a trip just to New York City on December 7th. It's not Radio City Music Hall, but it's another bus trip. And that's going to be leaving from, I think, this building here. So that's just a shopping sort of thing. Bus trip there, bus trip back. You don't have to worry about tolls. You don't have to worry about driving and traffic. So please take advantage of it. It's pretty affordable, and everybody that seems to go has a great time.
Thank you, Mr. Pielli. Moving on now to Township Manager's announcements.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 announcements. The December Sewer Authority meeting has been moved to Thursday, December 5th at 7 o'clock due to some conflicts on the board. So again, the December Sewer Authority meeting has been moved to 7 p.m. Thursday, December 5th here in this room. And then secondly, we have Thanksgiving coming up, next Thursday, the 28th. Trash and bulk trash collection will take place on Friday, November 29th. So remember to put it out Thanksgiving night. Or by 6 Friday morning. That's it, thank you. As far as I know, they're still meeting Thursday night. They never changed it to anything else.
With Chris Craig not here, do we have
Oh,
any information from him?
Sure.
Thank you.
Not so much stormwater, but the woodlands. At Greystone Project, they continue construction out there. The main collector road, Aram Avenue, is fully paved. The traffic signals are up but not lit. They did apparently open the road because I'm out there every day. I wouldn't say it's open for traffic. It's not dedicated to the township, so I don't recommend using the road. But they've taken most of the barriers down because they've started not pre-sales, sales of the existing homes. They apparently had an open house on Friday and Saturday for their VIP list. So they opened the road for those prospective home buyers.
I was over that way yesterday, it was open, nicely paved.
That's it, thank you.
Mr. Webb, could you give us some officers' announcements?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. The zoning hearing board's been rather busy this year. So I have 3 applications. I emailed the board earlier today. I apologize if it came to you today, but basically the applications all were paid in full Monday and today. So that's why everything was sent to you guys today. With regards to zoning hearing board application 19 of 2019, that would be for at 706 East Market Street, which is where Stumpy's is located. So, Mr. Khan, in order for them to place a freestanding sign at the location, they need a variance from section 84-52T(1), which is very common on projects like this that are right along, smaller lots right along the right of way, because that section does not permit a sign to encroach on a fall into the right of way. Well, it would be virtually impossible. We've had a few of these, namely the CVS, Wawa, and Wistwas Bank, were the most recent that we had the applicants had sought waivers for. So that is actually the same request as for application 20, which is going to be at 700 East Market, where the old auto house used to be. They're going to be putting in a TrueMark Financial. The auto house building is coming down, and TrueMark Financial is going in. So the board can either choose this evening whether you want to take a position on these 2 applications. The hearing is going to be on December 4th at 7 p.m. If you don't want to take a position on this evening, that's fine. We can just circle back through email, and I can get a consensus of the board for application 19 and 20. Would you like to take a position on this evening, or would you like to wait?
No position.
No, actually, I'm used to it.
All right, thank you. Application 21 will involves the Woodlands at Greystone, NV Homes. In my ventures through there, I've seen a lot of signage, to say the least, but that's not uncommon on a new construction site for them to have lot signs, for sale signs, directional signs for their thing. But some of their signage is rather large. So they're requesting a few variances. They're going to the zoning hearing board to request 3 variances. One from 8452R6A, which basically that we don't allow real estate signs to be any more than 4 square feet. So this request is basically for the townhouse lots. So instead of having a 4 square foot sign at each individual lot, they're doing one 16 square foot sign at where those 4 townhouses will be. And as those lots are sold, they'll put a sold sign, like a sold banner over top. Once all 4 units are sold to that building, the sign comes down. So that's their first request. Their second request pertains to temporary signage. Same section, and that has to do with the banners and the flags that they have. The ones that say for sale, and basically say NV Woodlands, those banners that they have at the entranceway to the active adult area and by the sales center. So our ordinance only permits a temporary banner for, I think it's a 90-day period. So they're requesting that these banners are allowed to be there until the project is sold out, which is not uncommon. that happens on new construction sites all over. With regards to the last sign, they put a billboard, I call it a billboard. It's a very large monument sign where the clubhouse is going to go in the active adult community. It's a 72 square feet. Only allowed to be 4. So they have this 72 square foot sign that they've erected. It's on 2 pillars. It's in a landscape area. Basically, it is a picture of the coming soon clubhouse, and it says Greystone on it. So they're requesting that that sign be allowed to stay until the clubhouse is open. And once the clubhouse is open, that sign will be removed. So those are the 3 variance requests that will be heard by the zoning hearing board on December 4th as well. Once again, you can choose to take a position tonight, or you can choose to think about it and get back to me. We just need to know in advance, so if we were going to take a position, Kristen's office could be prepared.
Can I ask a question, though?
Yes.
Do any of these applications have to do with putting a sign on township greenland or open space? I know Bizarre had contacted me indicating that one of the proposed signs was going to potentially encroach upon land that's ultimately going to be dedicated to the township.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And she needed to know whether the board would consent, because quite honestly, if one of these signs is on what is future township property, the township would have to consent to the application even being filed.
Correct.
So I had asked her to make sure that she brought that to your attention so that we could bring it to the board's attention for them to make a decision on whether you would even consent. If you don't consent to that occurring, then they don't even have the ability or the standing to file that particular application. So are any of these signs?
I apologize. That is in here. She didn't put a number next to that. That's in here under permanent signage. And that would be the 2 pillar signs at the intersection of Aram and Gershwin. So basically, has anyone been over to the Greystone, the Greystone?
Greystone South?
Yeah. There's 2 pillars from the original property. So these pillars will almost replicate what is there.
Oh, you mean Greystone Drive?
Yes, Greystone Drive.
The
Yes.
old Greystone Drive.
Correct.
So
there's 2 pillars off of Greystone Drive.
Right.
So they wanted to put this is going to be at the estate house. So, and the one is in a very small sliver of green space. But the board would have to grant permission for that. So we did discuss that in our meeting with Mr. Calgreco and Allison, that they should put that in the application. If the board so chose that we didn't want that in the green space, then they would withdraw that request. But they need our permission because it's in the green space.
But is that one of these 3 signs you described, or is it a 4th sign?
No, that's a 4th sign.
What's that?
It's not a sign, it's a pillar. So we don't allow walls in the front yard. So Mr. Craig would deem that a wall, even technically a wall. Correct. So it's a pillar.
And the way she described it to me, I don't have a plan to help you guys have a plan, but was that it's almost a sliver of the land that you would think is part of a lot. So it's just that it's unusual the way it was sort of parsed out, that it is actually part of your to-be-owned greenway land, but that anybody looking at it would think that it is part of the lot. But again, that's because they recognize that it is not going to be owned by a lot owner, and it will be on land owned by the township. The township would have to consent to it being located there.
And B's position to us was, if the board doesn't want it, that's fine. Then they would be fine with
Fine with
having
that
it.
for it?
No, not having it at all. They wanted to put it there because of the estate house. It was to give that feel.
Well, some things are going to sell no matter what, whether there's a pillar on that road or not. I'm just worried about the precedent. I mean, we're starting to allow people to put stuff on township property, even if it's just a sliver.
I agree.
So I'd rather, that's one aspect of, the other stuff seems temporary, and they're going up, they're going down. It's kind of removed from, there's no site obstructions from traffic, from what you're telling me.
No, all the banners are off.
It's my personal thing, I just don't want to set a precedent in township property.
The other 3, I would just look at zoning board
So we'll go back to, or I'll go back to Allison's article and say the board is not going to take a position on the temporary signage. However, we do take a position on the pillars, so therefore remove those because we need to have permission to go on that property. So, beyond that, getting back to the TrueMark Financial, I think we need to authorize a conditional use hearing for December 17th because the C5 zoning district requires financial institutions to be approved by conditional use. So that we would need to authorize that hearing for December 17th.
And we also have the Aquaway hearing that day as well. Okay. Pardon?
Well, does unite.
Yeah.
Two hearings.
Okay, so we need to
Need a
authorize.
motion
We
and
have
a
a
second.
motion to authorize.
Authorize a conditional use hearing for the TrueMark Financial for December 17th after your regular meeting at 7 p.m.
To the application table, 2000.
I'll make that motion.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, I have nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Camp, would you like to?
Sure.
Items 13.
So the first ordinance is something that is required by state law. So in April of 2018, the Pennsylvania General Assembly passed a law known as Act 15 of 2018, and that amends the statewide stormwater management regulations. The township has adopted what's referred to as an Act 167 ordinance. It was a county model that every municipality had to adopt. And the state law is now mandating that your stormwater ordinance exempt what's called high tunnels, which is something that's used on agricultural properties. If they meet certain criteria that are spelled out in the definition in the ordinance, then they're not required to comply with the stormwater management ordinance. So the county sent correspondence to all the municipalities to advise them that this law was passed and that you need to update your stormwater ordinance. So it's a very simple change. Your stormwater ordinance already has certain exempted activities, and this is just adding another exempt activity for what is called a high tunnel. Because it's part of your code, it did have to be advertised as a public hearing. We sent a copy, we advertised, in the Daily Local News on November 6, 2019. And because we only do summary ads to save money, we have to send a full copy of the ordinance both to the law library and the Daily Local News, which we did on October 17th. So it's been properly advertised for tonight's adoption. Happy to answer any questions.
The information you provided was very straightforward, so I think it's pretty clear.
But we don't have any of these structures in the township.
Not a one.
And
We
probably,
have to amend our ordinance in order to be.
and actually, as I was preparing, I reread the county letter, and it says even if you don't think you have any or won't have any, you still need to adopt it to have your ordinance be compliant with state law.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, public comment? Ms. Ford, come on up.
Hi, quick question for Ms. Camp. I read this 50 times and it just didn't sink in, so if you could clear this up for me. On page 2, under number 1 and number 2, the high tunnel is located at least 100 feet from any perennial stream or water course, which is kind of
35 feet.
Well, I know, that's what's confusing me. So number 1 says the high tunnel is located at least 100 feet from any perennial stream or water
It
course.
meets one of the following. It has to meet one of the following, 1, 2, or 3.
Okay. All right. Yeah, 1 and 2 just seem to contradict one another.
They do. So it has to meet, if the way you read it in whole is it has to meet under subparagraph II, either 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't have to meet all of them. It meets one of those.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
The second ordinance is also what I'll call in the category of federal law trumps state or local law. So the federal regulations have been revised recently to protect carriers of what's called small wireless facilities. So as our technology is changing and getting ready for 5G, a lot of cellular companies are lobbying legislators and Congress has enacted additional regulations. Actually, the FCC issued rulings that have the effect of law, and the townships must adhere to these when it comes to regulating and permitting wireless facilities. So this is really intended to comply with the federal laws and the FCC rulings that were recently issued that impose certain time restrictions on when you receive applications for things that are called small wireless facilities. Once you receive an application, you have 10 days to notify the applicant whether their application is complete, and then you have 60 calendar days to basically approve or deny the application. So that's something that's not currently in your wireless facility regulations, that's contained within your zoning ordinance. So that is primarily what this ordinance is intended to do. It also revises a section of the ordinance that deals with where these types of facilities would be located. So section 7 of the ordinance would allow tower-based wireless facilities that are greater than 55 feet in height. Actually, they're prohibited in the right-of-way. If they're 55 feet or shorter, this ordinance adds to the streets within the township where they would be permitted. And then if they're they have to be permitted by conditional use, though. So you're basically identifying the roads within the municipality where it's highly traveled, where you're expecting that these carriers are going to want to provide the coverage. We've sort of identified, working with your staff, the roads that would be most appropriate for these facilities to be located, and requiring them then still to go through a conditional use process. So through that conditional use process, you'll have some ability to impose reasonable restrictions and regulations on the siting of these. Basically, what they would do is they would attach to, what they like to do is attach to existing structures. So existing utility poles, existing light standards, that kind of thing. And then basically we say the other thing that's key provision here is that they would be prohibited to be located in the front yard. So if they have discretion as to where to put them, they can't be in front of a residential property. So we wouldn't want them to be put in a residential neighborhood where there's somebody's front yard. We wouldn't want them to be located there. So that provision is contained in here. This is an amendment to your zoning, so there are certain provisions we had to go through to make sure that it's properly adopted. We advertised it twice in the Daily Local News on October 30th and November 6th. We sent a copy of the ordinance both to the Law Library and the Daily Local, and we also had sent it to the County Planning Commission. They don't have any real substantive comments other than to notify us that there are federal laws that regulate this, which we're very aware of. And then we also had to have your own Planning Commission review this, and your Planning Commission did review this ordinance at the October 8th meeting, and they unanimously recommended that the board approve this ordinance. I will note that this is an area of the law that's increasingly changing quickly. We actually have a meeting set up tomorrow with representatives from AT&T who are interested in lobbying you to make further edits to your ordinance. So we will be meeting with them. The law still stands that you do have the ability to impose reasonable regulations on wireless facilities, although the federal law does state that you can't unreasonably prohibit the dissemination of the wireless facilities. So there's a fine line of what you can do, and we'll try to make sure we educate the board on what your continuing zoning powers are with regard to these facilities.
I will make the motion that we adopt it. I'll second that.
I just have one comment on this. So it was actually an interesting article in the Philadelphia Inquirer back in September about a Bucks County property owner who had Verizon come in and replace an existing lamppost on the corner of their property with a new lamppost, but now it's higher with up to 48 feet with one of these devices on it to improve the wireless connection. And the basic premise was that the property owner was powerless to prevent that change to the change in the lamppost, and since it's already a location, they could then claim they could use that for this new wireless
That they would not be able to do that under our ordinances. So you have a pretty robust ordinance already in your zoning that deals with wireless facilities. That would not be allowed. And these edits don't do anything to allow that.
information, I see there's an attachment, 84D or Railway. They do include Paoli Pike. There's a lot of houses on Paoli Pike, so is there?
Right, but the section does say that even though it would be allowed on the street, they're not allowed in a right-of-way that directly fronts or abuts the front yard setback of a dwelling unit that's currently used for residential purposes or zoned residential.
Okay. Just wondering where on Paoli Pike they'd be able to find a spot. Because that whole, I mean.
Well, this side of the road, there's some on this side of the road.
Yeah,
Shopping
it's
center.
limited to this right. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing, I mean, the experience that we've had, East Goshen has a similar ordinance, and the carriers they want to work with the municipality. They don't want to come in and just put them in places that you're not going to be satisfied with. So I know, for example, Wilson Drive was one of the roads in East Goshen that they were wanting to increase the coverage. And Mark Gordon, the zoning officer, met with them and said, well, hey, you know what? As long as they can meet their coverage needs, they have ability to, shift them. And so working with the zoning officer, they were willing to shift the location. So that kind of dialogue can still occur. The fact that it's through conditional use approval still gives you some ability to have, ability to impose reasonable restrictions and conditions. So.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Excuse me. Oh, you have a public comment?
Yes, wait. Couple questions.
I don't have the ordinance printed out, but I did print out something, small cell wireless technology in cities, and this is a municipal action guide. I'm just wondering if the ordinance takes advantage of the opportunity for some real revenue generation from these companies, so we can collect revenue per location on the right-of-way that's in there.
Well, it's not within the ordinance, but we currently do have right-of-way agreements, I think with Crown Castle, where we do collect revenue if it's on facilities owned by the township. So it has to be on, for example, if there's any light standards the township owns, but if they're on Pico poles, we're not entitled to revenue for that. It has to be on utilities that the township, or facilities, that the township owns.
Okay, right, rent based on market rates if using public property. Okay.
But we do have in your ordinance where we allow at this location, the municipal owned property, we are encouraging and have a cell tower at the property today where you do get rent from.
Okay, because currently it was in the budget, $32,000 or $34,000, something like that. And then also it says cities should take care to ensure that costs for removal of abandoned equipment are not borne by taxpayers.
It's in there. That's in there currently.
Great, thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Number 15?
Yes, this is, if you recall from several months ago, the board agreed to move ahead with the Green Hill Road, the Boot Road restriping project with East Goshen Township. We've discussed that over many years. This is Resolution 19 of 2019, which would allow PennDOT to approve our, what is called a TE 160, which is the permit application to add left turn arrows on North and South Green Hill to finally abate that problem along with queuing traffic on Green Hill, which we've been complaining about for decades. So but it's in tandem with the restriping, because as we discussed back in 2016, we can't approve this without the restriping because they're linked together so closely. So this is the application for the township to apply for the permit change to add those left turn arrows.
This is left turn from Green Hill
From
on
Green
to
Hill on to Boot, both directions, correct?
Right.
Correct, yeah, I'm stuck in that traffic as well. Yes.
It's nice. I'll make a motion to approve the Green Hill Road signal application.
Mr. Purnell, would you defer to Mr. Pielli?
Oh, he already did. I didn't hear him. I'll second it.
Okay, very good.
Second.
I just have a question
Yes, sir.
where PennDOT is with our application to the actual project.
Correct. PennDOT is very close to ultimate approval. It's got to go through several layers of approval at PennDOT. We received verbal, we received an email, looks great. Carroll Engineering is within days of getting the final approval, and there appear to be no hiccups at all, so we could schedule this for summer of next year, the actual restriping, and to get the work done with Pagans Electric to get the signal parts ordered as soon as we hit the new budget year, and get it done concurrently with the striping and paving of Hoover.
Good. Okay.
Any comment?
Yep, any public comment on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 16, discussion and possible approval of 2019 surplus police vehicle bids.
Yes. We put 5 vehicles out for bid to include 2 police cars, a 2009 Ford Crown Victoria, 2010 Ford Crown Victoria, a ancient blue Escape 2005, a 2008 Dodge Sprinter van, which was formerly from the sewer plant. It was their camera truck that was ultimately replaced, and then a 2011 Ford Escape Hybrid. We received surprising bids. I'm recommending, it's actually not Mooney, it's Meany. There was he hand scrawled his bid, so it's actually John Meany. He had the 2 high bids for the 2009 Ford Crown Victoria and the 2010 Ford Crown Victoria, both at $22.53 apiece. I don't know why he paid so much for the second car, but hey, whatever. That's okay, we'll take it. The high bid on the 2011 Ford Escape Hybrid was $4,120. Kenneth Lear from Paoli. And again, I'm not sure what he was thinking. Mr. Rashid Miori from Warminster paid a whopping sum of $17,000 for the Ford Sprinter van. So I'm meeting him at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to quickly get the check and make sure it's a cashier's check, so it's good as cash. I need to seal that deal immediately. So that'll be transferred tomorrow, and the other cars in the next week or so. I'm recommending approval. Again, Mr. Minnie for the 2 Crown Ford Vics.
Let's not waste time.
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that we accept those bids.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Don't give him a chance.
No.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Just as an aside, we received no bids for the completely rusted out, very unsafe 2005 Ford Escape, so I recommend that we send it down to the fire school for a chopping up for training. And I would like a motion from the board if we could do that as well.
I'll make the motion that we donate the 2005 Ford Escape to the Westchester Fire School.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any public comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Very good. Thank you so much.
Item number 17, discussion and possible approval of the 2019 Senior Citizen Trash Rebate Program.
Yes, this is our annual Senior Citizen Trash Rebate Program. This year, per the board's directive, it also includes the sewer rebate. So the list of 103 residents, the numbers have been declining over the years. They've got to submit very specific paperwork from the Commonwealth to us to ensure that they meet the requirements. Extremely low income, and they pay sewer and trash, just sewer, just trash. It depends. And we do have a couple of people who are on septic who just pay trash. And we have one person who only pays sewer, does not pay trash. So we have 103 residents on the list for both those programs this year. So we're just seeking approval. And we cut the checks in December as part of the payable, the rebate checks. And it's 80% of their sewer and 80% of their trash as a rebate.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Number 18, Mr. Lamont.
Sure. The township does not do electrical inspections for buildings. It's common practice for municipalities not to inspect for electrical, so we have a list of third-party inspectors, but the board has to approve any additions to that list. Campbell Inspection Services has applied. They're a reputable firm. They've supplied their insurance liability to us. And it just goes on the list that homeowners and businesses can use as electrical inspectors for their electrical inspections for any type of renovations, new construction, et cetera, for the township. So we recommend approval.
Just something that Casey said, all the township does is provide a list of these approved inspection inspectors to the homeowner.
Yes, to the developer, to the builder, to the homeowner.
And
And
they choose from the list and make it all of it.
And that's the extent of the relationship. There's no fees, there's no nothing. That's where we just provide the list.
So this is an extension or an additional contractor for the list?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a motion
Make
to
a motion
approve?
to accept Campbell.
I'll second.
Any public comment? Please start.
I just wondered, does this have anything to do with the large amount of homes that will be inspected over at Woodlands?
We haven't had a new addition to this list in probably 2 or 3 years, so it's just.
I can answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
They called me directly because they had a couple of owners not seeing the list actually contacted them before seeing the list. So in error, they almost did a couple of inspections within the township. So then they asked to be on the list because of that. So it was 2 individual homeowners.
As these homes are built over there, or anywhere in the township, the township requires a occupancy permit, correct?
Correct.
So who's doing all the inspections on these homes during the building process? Is that something the township hires out, or is that the
We do it
building?
all internally besides electric.
Pardon me?
We do it all internally besides electric. But the
Okay.
use and occupancy you speak of is only for new construction.
So does the township then choose the electrical
No.
inspector to go out to those homes?
No, that's a third party. The resident chooses who they want from our pre-approved list.
Correct.
And then they provide us with the approval, the electrical permit, and then they get the electrical permit in turn after providing us with the approval from the third-party electrical inspector.
So on the homes that are being built, though, that would be NVR, would be reaching out.
NVR would choose their own third-party electrical inspector.
Thank you.
Somebody on our list.
Right, correct.
Person on our list, correct.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, wait a minute. No, we can't. We have public comment.
Public comments.
We still need to vote on this?
You did.
We did already? Okay. Okay. Last item on the agenda.
Yeah.
What did I just say? All in favor? Try it again. All in favor? Aye.
That's the election.
For the electrical commission, yeah, the Campbell Code, yeah. All right, we've completed our business. Now it's time for public comment. Mr. Bradshaw, nice to see you.
I'm sure you missed me last night.
In 1933, Act 69 states that the duty of the Board of Supervisors is to secure the safety and welfare of its citizens. Implementing township policy is another duty of the Board of Supervisors. On 3/9/2018, I messaged Madam Chair to complain about snow throwback on my walkway on Silver Road for years. She messaged me back, and I quote, "Unfortunately, once the plow hits the snow, he, the driver, cannot control the snow coming off the plow." That is a flat-out lie. Anyone with any common sense knows that the speed of the vehicle dictates how far the snow will be thrown. She also told me the township policy is the roads need to be cleared curb to curb. I have sent Madam Chair several photos and videos that show this policy has repeatedly been violated. I have also complained for years that the throwback endangers the public welfare. The intersection of Warren and Silver Roads is a major school bus stop. In the dead of winter, when it is pitch black, these children are forced to either navigate clumps of ice and snow or walk in the street to catch their bus. Township officials have been aware of this situation for years, but have failed to do their job to protect anyone using this walkway when it's cluttered with the snow throwback. Last year, Mr. Paelli was asked why he had not responded to a complaint. Mr. Paelli said he needed proof that the complaint was justified. and that he felt his primary duty was to do what's best for West Goshen Township. I have provided ample proof of my complaint, yet this board has failed to acknowledge that or hold any township officials accountable. No member of this board or any township officials have come forward to refute my claims. Then in a cowardly act, the board implemented Resolution 11-2019, where this board reserves the right to not answer questions. The fact that with its silence and not holding any officials accountable, the only conclusion that can be reached is that the board is complicit with township officials that have been violating township policy. This shows the depth of corruption that exists between this board and township officials. Ignoring violations of township policy and a situation that endangered the public welfare is not what is best for West Goshen Township. I want to know why this board refuses to do its duty. And I have many pictures and things showing the violations of public policy and the throwback 14 feet, if anybody's interested.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment this evening? Hearing none? All in favor? Aye. Thank you for being here.